Welcome to Silent Symptoms, a Black mental health podcast. I am your host, Katasso Fridge, a Florida-based therapist. This podcast focuses on mental health, stigmas, and social injustices that affect the Black community. This podcast was created to bring awareness about mental health and can be used as an educational guide, but this is not to be used as a replacement for seeking help from a therapist. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hi, welcome to Silent Symptoms. So this is a very special episode because somebody sent me a message and requested that I did an episode on Narcissistic Personality Disorder, and I'm also going to be referencing it as NPD. So that is a shortcut version. So you guys know my rule of thumb. So when I talk about diagnoses, I always want to reference the DSM-5, which is the Bible for mental health. So we use this Bible to diagnose clients or patients, however you want to reference it. And this is the official way that the DSM-5 categorizes NPD. It says NPD is defined as comprising a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts. So that kind of tells you right there, even if I didn't continue, it already gave you the definition of somebody that's narcissistic, okay? But there's more to it. So they have to meet certain criteria. So, some people want to know, am I narcissistic or am I dating somebody that's narcissistic? So this is the most overused term. It is very overused. Somebody that wants to be in control, that doesn't mean that they are a narcissist, okay? So if you meet somebody, this is somebody that's narcissistic. So if you meet somebody that has a grandiose sense of self-importance, like this person feels like they are everything, they want you to speak to them first. They feel like they can't talk to any Joe Smoke. They can't be around any Joe Smoke. They have to be noticed and they have to be recognized. So they are very grandiose, over the top. They're not just your regular individual that is attention seeking. So somebody that is, narcissistic, they have this thought process of unlimited power. So they always want to be in control. They want to have that power. They want to have that security. They want to know that they're receiving all the unlimited amount of love from people. They want to be seen as this perfect being. They want to be successful. They want to be loved. And then most people be like, what's wrong with that? And I don't see anything wrong with that, right? Me neither. But the thing is, it's the way that they go about doing things. They have to have these things because there's a difference between having the desire to have these things, but it's another when they're constantly fantasizing about it, over talking about it, interacting about it. Like the need for power is real. Like when somebody is driven, is thirsty for it, that's when somebody is narcissistic, because there are people who have dreams and goals and aspirations and they're able to have that success. They're humble with their drive. Like they will wake up early in the morning to make sure things get done, right? But you just know that person is coming from a place of positivity. But somebody that has NPD is very grandiose. It's very in your face. You can't miss it. You can't say, what's going on with this person. You're going to know what's going on. And, somebody that has NPD also feels like they're special. They are better than everybody else around them. They love to have a high status. Like somebody that has NPD, when they walk in that room, they're going to be seen. They want that special treatment. So you better bring that drink to them, because they're not going to go get it at the bar. They expect somebody to serve them. So you're giving them of service, okay? And, and sometimes they exploit the power that they have. So they so much become like unbearable to deal with, because this is something that they feel like they deserve, that they must have, and nobody can take it away from them. So it's a thing for them. And what comes with this is a lack of empathy. So people who have NPD don't really apologize. They find a way for them to blame you for your hurt. For example, when you're in a relationship and they cheat on you, they treat you horribly, and you stick around, and then you look for that apology, they will literally tell you, well, it's not my fault that you stayed with me. If you would have left me, then you wouldn't be feeling this way. No empathy. So that's kind of how they deliver themselves, and their behavior is very hardcore, for lack of a better term. And sometimes they are very envious of others. So if somebody's doing better than them and somebody is, successful, has all the love in the world, all the qualities that they're striving for, if they don't have, and somebody else is getting the attention, the love, they can sometimes become envious. And it can be a really difficult thing for most people to deal with, because it's not like it's an intentional thing. It's just something that happens. And, and that could cause them to have like arrogant behavior, act haughty. So if they see somebody that's successful, or they're not getting the things that they feel like they deserve, they're not pleasant to be around, and they want things to be their way. So my way or the highway, you could put up with me or you don't. So when somebody is in your life that is struggling with NPD, or you have NPD, I'm always going to suggest for you guys to seek therapy. That is the only way somebody can really, deal with this type of behavior or improve their behavior. Getting the assistance of a mental health therapist is really important, because they have the tools to approach that person in the way that they need to be approached. It's not something your average person can deal with, because as individuals, we tend to throw our hands up, right? What we usually do is say, I can't deal with this. This is terrible. You're a horrible individual. I can't be around you. And we throw our hands up. And sometimes with family, it's like they keep a healthy distance from people who have NPD, because they have to be the center of attention. They don't want to listen to anyone else. So which causes, a rift in the family. It causes estrangement. And this is where somebody needs to, just draw the line and say, hey, you need help for what you're going through. And sometimes it takes a bit of a time to try to convince someone to be in the state of mind to get assistance from a mental health professional, especially when you're talking from an aspect of a, Black community or a Black person. It's really difficult for someone to get out of their way and say, hey, this is a problem. Because when you have NPD, you don't see it as an issue. You see it as confidence. So creating that fine line between, are you confident, or are you narcissistic, or are you chauvinistic? So that's really kind of where the line is drawn. And these are ways that people can deal with someone that is narcissistic. So these are the 5 reasons why and how, not why, but how to deal with someone that has NPD. Number 1, like I previously stated, please ask them to seek therapy, because a mental health professional can lead them down the path that they need to be on. And the journey begins with that particular person and their mental health professional. Number 2, set clear boundaries. When you feel as though someone is intimidating you, disrespecting you, or is not empathetic towards you, set those needed boundaries in order for you to be, where you need to be to feel respected, because sometimes it's easy to, carry on with the things that we feel like is necessary to keep the situation calm. Sometimes you may need personal space from the person, and sometimes that means that, this is time for me to take a time out. And once I'm able to think clearly, I will be back to have this conversation with you. This is not saying you need to threaten the person. This is not saying that you need to say, I believe you if you don't act like this. I'm going to do this. Don't do that. Just be clear and be firm in what your expectations are. And if you need a physical break, take that time out. And the third one is don't blame yourself for somebody else's behavior. If you continue this cycle of blaming yourself, it's only going to lead you down a rabbit hole. Most people with NPD, they will not take responsibility for hurting you. They do a lot of projection. So once you have set those clear boundaries, you have to remember that you're not at fault. Sometimes you want to keep the peace and say, okay, it was my fault. I should have never made you upset. Don't take blame for something that you didn't do. Stand in your truth. And this is not saying be combative, but stand in your truth and be firm with it. That's the only way that you'll be able to deal with someone with NPD. It's also important for you to find a support system. Sometimes this may be your family member, or this may be your significant other of 15 years, a very long time. And sometimes it's really difficult to just move on from a person. So finding that support system of people who will understand where you're coming from, whether it's family members, that are able to help you, and, you guys are able to lean on one another, because this may be your brother, your cousin, your sister, your mother, your father, they're not exempt. So finding those people who can relate to what you're going through and banding together, to be a support system. So sometimes, you just need to get together with family and, with friends, and just to get that support. This is not going to be a bashing match, but this is something that you can create for yourself as a safety net. Now, this is a very important one. The fifth one is move on. Hard to say, but sometimes it may be necessary if all the things that are stated above are not taken care of and are not possible. It's time to move on. And sometimes, when someone is struggling with NPD, they skate on that fine line of being abusive. And this could be verbally or physically. Sometimes they insult you in public, call you names. They're jealous. They blame you for things. They yelling. There are a lot of things that they can potentially do due to their mental health. And sometimes we try to stick by people for as long as we can, but sometimes it's time for you to let go. So, they may try to isolate you or blame you for everything that goes wrong and, projecting their shortcomings on you, telling you you're not good enough. Or maybe if you didn't look at me like that, I wouldn't have to yell at you. Or, well, you made me mad, so it's your fault. Or you're ugly. Or things like that. They're not really, meant to uplift you. So those are the things that you need to look for, even with somebody that doesn't have NPD. This is something that's very serious. Being emotionally and verbally abused is a thing. So if people in your life are not treating you accordingly, the best method to handle something is to move forward. And if you've been in a situation to where someone in your life has been abusive to you for a long time, it may also be time for you to seek therapy for yourself. It is really important to put your sanity and your mental health first. We also have a way of trying to help others when we aren't all the way there ourselves. So there's no way to help someone if we're not 100% or close to it. I would say even 90%. So seek help, seek a therapist, and this narcissistic personality disorder can skate on the fine line of abuse. And without proper help, this may continue. So if you're struggling with it, please seek help from a mental health therapist. If you know someone, talk to them. Just don't come out of the blue and say, oh, I heard this on Silent Symptoms podcast that you may have NPD. If someone is not displaying all those things that I mentioned, don't even bother. If somebody is displaying it, don't just come out of nowhere, because that could come off as very offensive. So take the time to talk to the person, and if you know the person, have that keen conversation with them and say it out of love, because if you say it any other way, it may not be received. So if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available through email and direct messages on my Silent Symptoms podcast page. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. You can catch us on Anchor and all your favorite media streams. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Silent Symptoms Podcast. Let us know if you have any feedback or topics that you would like to hear.